Hi, my name is Stuart Lynch, and in this video I'm going to introduce you to something that you might have overlooked, an exciting new feature of iOS 15, and a Swift package that I wrote that will help you take full advantage of that new feature in SwiftUI. It's a new feature that allows you to capture text from the world around you, and it's called Text from Camera. At the same time, we'll explore the TextEditor and TextField features that you may not be aware of and how you can take advantage of the UITextContentType and UIKeyboardType for a TextField or text editor. And as a bonus, if you're interested, I'll show you how, if you've duplicated the package and added it as a local framework, I'll show you how to modify it and even add more customization to what we already have. Now before I get started, let me request that if you enjoy this video, please leave a comment below, and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Make sure you ring the bell to be notified of new videos. And if you want to support my work, you can buy me a coffee. If this is something you want to learn, keep watching. I'm going to start with TextEditor to show you that new feature before I get into text fields. I've developed a starter project for this tutorial, and I encourage you to download it from the link in the notes below and work along with me. That way, at the end of the video, you'll have a nice reference app that you can refer back to should you need to examine and implement one of the features. I've also created a unique app icon for you so it'll be easy to recognize on your device or simulator. The first tab of this starter project has 3 text editor views. A text editor is the SwiftUI equivalent of a text view in UIKit. The one inside the form at the top is obvious, but the 2 below are not, and unless I provide some kind of styling for this, I have difficulty knowing which one is which. Also, for the text editor in the form, I've created a section header that tells the user what is needed to enter here. But for the other 2, I would have to add some other kind of text view in order to prompt the user what to enter, because text editors, like text views, don't have a placeholder option. Finally, when I tap into one of those views, the keyboard appears, but there's no way to dismiss it. So I'd have to implement some focus state procedure here to fix that. So those are 3 things I want to fix with my Swift package. But before I get there, I want to show you what the new iOS feature is that's called Text from Camera. We're running on a device, and if I enter one of these text editor views, I can start typing. But did you know that if you tap a second time on one of these fields, you're given the option to scan text? If I do that, it brings up a camera, and as soon as I point that camera over some text, like my old business card, who has these nowadays anyway? Well, the text is recognized and entered into the text editor. The problem is that as soon as I move away, the text changes to whatever is next. You must tap on the Insert button to confirm it. Still, this is pretty cool. But the UI leaves a lot to be desired. Did you even know that it existed? Well, the good news is that there's a solution to that. The bad news is that it's a UIKit option for UITextView and UITextField, not the SwiftUI versions. So that's why I created the Swift package. It helps me solve not only this problem, but the 3 others that I've already identified. First, before we go on, this new feature has some hardware requirements. Not all devices running iOS 15 support the feature. The device should be an iPhone, and not just any iPhone, one with the machine learning superpowers of the neural engine, and this means a 2018 or newer iPhone. Aside from the hardware, your responder has to handle the text insertion. So we are good to go with the text editor and the text field that I'm going to cover next, so as long as they're editable, you can use this feature. And finally, users must have at least one of these 7 supported languages in their list of preferred languages. The name of the package that I've created is called CTScanText, and it's available from my GitHub repository. All you have to do is copy this URL. To add a Swift package to your project, choose File, Add Package. And then you can just paste in that URL into the search field and then click on Add Package once it's recognized. Then Add Package once more. This adds the package dependency to your project. If you drill down, we can inspect what we have in here. And you do that by drilling down and going to the Sources folder, and the content is in the CTScanText folder. And there are two files, the ScanTextEditor and ScanTextField. These are two UI view representables so that I can convert the UITextViews and UITextField controls into usable SwiftUI views. In doing so, I've added some additional features that will add two new keyboard buttons, one for the scan from camera and one to dismiss the keyboard, along with some styling to add some additional styling features. I encourage you to inspect these files and watch my video on UIKit integration with SwiftUI to learn this technique and to understand what I've done here. Now, before I go on, though, I want to say that this whole idea started when I watched a video on the Flow Writes Code YouTube channel that implements this idea in the live text in Swift videos. I encourage you to subscribe to Flow's channel as he offers lots of quality content. Indeed, some of the code in the ScanTextEditor and ScanTextViews can be attributed to Flow, so I wanted to make sure I give him credit. Okay, so how do we use them? First off, we need to go to the screen where we want to implement them and import CTScanText. Now, I'm simply going to change the text editor in our three views to be ScanTextEditor. When I refresh the preview, nothing's changed. However, I've added two new things that can help us. In the first view, outside of the form, I want to add a border around that view. And I can do that by applying a new ScanTextEditor style. And it has three options available: a rounded border with background, and plain. And the plain style is just the default that you'll likely never use, but let's apply the rounded border style. In the preview then, you see that the border has been added. Similarly then, let's add the second type to the next ScanTextEditor, and that's the rounded border with background style. And it requires us to enter a UI color. So let's use Quaternary System Fill. I like that. I still don't know what to put into these text editors here, so I wish I had a placeholder for them, like I do with the TextField. The first text editor is okay, because I've got that section header, but what about the other two? Well, with ScanTextEditor, you can add a placeholder. Simply add a string as the first argument like you do for a text field, like this. Let's also add one to the second ScanTextEditor. Well, that solved the first of my problems. Now let's run it on a device. Now when I run on the device and tap into a ScanTextEditor view, I see that there are two buttons on the keyboard. And the second one dismisses the keyboard. And I didn't even have to use a focus state. And it works for all three of these. Another problem solved. Now if we enter into another one of these ScanText views and tap that first button now, instead of double tapping to get that ScanText option, the camera is presented. However, the text doesn't get entered into the editor until I can frame it what I want and then tap on Insert. I think that's much better. Okay, let's move on now to the TextField alternative. As TextEditor in SwiftUI is similar to the text view in UIKit, we also have a text field in SwiftUI that is similar to the UIKit version of the same name. In the second tab of the demo project, I've placed a number of text fields, 2 outside of a form and 4 inside the form. When we view this on the canvas, the 2 fields outside the form are not easy to distinguish. although we do have a placeholder at least. Now before we add my package version, let's take a look at what the possibilities are for TextField and what some limitations might be that might lead you to want to use the ScanText equivalent. First of all, the TextField does have some style, and we can apply the TextField style modifier, and you have one choice basically, the rounded border. But you may also wish to apply plain if for some reason the automatic context-based style is not working for you. And this adds the rounded border to the text field. Now, there is no background fill, however, so if you want that, you're going to have to roll your own or consider the ScanTextField alternative that we'll get into in just a second. Let me run this on a real device. When I tap in, I can enter text, but if I tap a second time, I get that Scan Text option, just as I did with the text editor. The problem I have here is the same as it was before. It recognizes text and it automatically inserts it into the view. And I'd rather focus on the text and choose what I want to insert. Notice also that there is no dismiss keyboard option available here either. The remaining fields inside the form, though, do not really need to be distinguished with a border or a background, but there is something special about these types of fields, specifically the content that I'm asking the user to input. In fact, there are many different types of special content types, and these are UITextContentTypes. You can see from the documentation here that there are many, and if you designate your fields here as one of these, it will assist you with recommendations when filling in data from your phone. For example, I can change the first text field for name to use the text context type of name and an alphabet keyboard, although I could probably leave a keyboard type out, as it would then default to the default one. Now, if I run on my phone and tap in this field, I get an automatic suggestion drawn from my contacts, I suppose. I can tap on it. Perfect. However, there are 7 that are very special, and they can filter on content type when we're scanning. It's these 7 UITextContext types that you should be aware of. A combination of one of these and the keyboard type will make data entry much easier when you scan. I've chosen just 4 of these 7, but the process is the same for all. Let's apply the specified context type and keyboard type to each of these 4 different text fields. The first one will use the email address for the text content type and the keyboard type. For the phone number, the text contact type is telephone number, and for the keyboard type, phone pad. For the address, we need to use the full street address, and we'll just use the default keyboard type. And for the website, it's URL for both. Now, if I'm running on my phone, I can tap into any one of these text fields, and suggestions are automatically presented to me. It doesn't look like it's picking up any web URL for me, but that's okay. It might for you. Notice also that there's no keyboard dismiss here now, and that's an issue I hope to resolve. Let me exit and run again just so that I get clear fields. Now, if I tap on a second time in one of these text views, I get that scan prompt. But this time, it's a specific context type, and that's provided by the combination of the text content type and the keyboard type. So the first one is the scan email address, and I can scan that card, and as soon as I go over any text, it's only going to filter and recognize the specific type. And I can do that for all of them. Now this is pretty cool without using my package. However, there are still some deficiencies. I can't easily choose a background color, and there's no Dismiss Keyboard button. Let me see if I can fix that with my CTScanText package. So first, let's import CTScanText. Next, change all the text fields to ScanTextFields. You'll notice in the canvas that something happens right away, and this is a limitation you need to be aware of for ScanTextField. The height is not fixed, so the height will expand to fill the entire space available. And you see that happening with these two outside of the form. The ones inside the form are okay, but you'll need to specify a frame height if it's not constrained by a form, which in my case I suggest 30. The text field style, however, does carry over because I've replaced the style and the name of the text field equivalent in the package. So you'll see that my name field still has that rounded border. For the second text field, let's add a new text field style. And I've added the ScanTextField that is a rounded border with background. Let's choose that with the quaternary system fill again. Let's test on a real device and see what happens when I tap in the field. Remember that neither of these two views here in the first two have any special content type applied. When I tap on the field, I now see the Scan button and a Dismiss Keyboard button. And when I tap on the button, unlike before, the text is not inserted into the view until I tap Insert, so I can focus on my name. Let's tap into one of our ones in the form. This time, the suggestions still show up, but I only get the Dismiss Keyboard option. There is no Scan from Camera button provided. And I omitted this for a reason, and if someone can resolve this and update the package, and you'll learn how to do that, that would be great. What I found was that if you have this keyboard bar button requesting the scan text, it ignores the special UI content type designation, and the scan will not focus on them. However, you can still second tap to bring up the suggestion and then focus based on the text content type, just like on the regular text field. And we can do that then and scan for all of that content on that business card. Not perfect by any means. Certainly some deficiencies, including the no on commit and having to specify the frame. So use at your own discretion, or you can modify the two source files. Let's try to set a different foreground color. However, now if I'm going to apply a foreground color of red, it doesn't change. And why is that? Well, it's because I haven't added that foreground color property or modifier to the UI view representable, that form inside my Swift package. You see that I've only added these ones that I use for the style. Now, if I try to add my own properties here, I can't do it. And the problem is that a Swift package is not modifiable. You'll have to make it a local package so that you have the ability to modify the content. If you want to see how you can clone and modify a Swift package, I encourage you to watch this video that I've created. There's documentation and a video, and I'll leave a link in the notes below. Now, if you've watched the video and know how to clone a Swift package and add it locally, let's see how we can make the suggested modification. So the package has been cloned. We've got that foreground color applied, or it's not being applied, so let's make sure that it does. I'm going to go to the ScanTextField file and create a modifier. And I'll scroll down to the end, and I'm going to create a public function. However, the first time I do that, it's going to tell me that I need to unlock the file. So we'll create this public function with the same name as the SwiftUI modifier, which is foreground color. And it has one parameter, which is a SwiftUI color view. But once we've modified, we'll return the ScanTextField, just as modifiers do in SwiftUI. Returns a new copy or a new presentation of that same view. Back up at the top now, we'll add a new property to our struct that I'll call TextColor. And it will be a color, not a UI color, because we need to pass in that to our function. And it's private, only the function itself is public. We'll need to fix the initializer here too. So we'll have to add a text color of type color. And we'll set it as a default right here in the initializer, where we'll set the color to be a UI color that is the standard label color. And then, of course, we have to do a self.textColor equals textColor. And then down in the section where you make the view, we'll need to set this new color to the TextField's color. So right here, we can simply say that the TextField.textColor, because TextField's a UIKit view, it's going to be equal to the UI color of our text color. And then finally, down in the body of our function that we've created, we can assign or create a new property called a view that is simply self. And then once we have access to the ScanText view, we can set the text color to the property that was just passed in, and then return that updated view. And now, when we go back to our TextField screen, we have that foreground color still applied, but this time in our canvas, when I type into that ScanTextField, we see that it's red. Perfect. Well, I hope you've learned a few things here that you can use in your projects. Thanks for watching.